If you're looking for a great day trip away from the hustle and bustle of downtown Puerto Vallarta, then you might want to consider going to the beaches at Las Animas, where you'll not only find a great beach for swimming, but also wonderful restaurants where you can get a great meal and excellent beverages. There are many ways to get to Las Animas, including hiring one of the private company charters. You can take a water taxi from the pier, Las Mortos. Those of you who follow my channel on Facebook or YouTube know I'm an avid walker, hiker, and explorer of all the areas surrounding Puerto Vallarta. Therefore, my favorite way to get to Las Animas is to hike there. From Boca, the hike is approximately 3 miles or 4.8 kilometers long, with a total elevation change along the trail of up to 73 meters or 239 feet. Would rate the hike as medium to difficult only because there's a couple of steep climbs and steep descents. The trail is uneven and lined with roots, which can serve as tripping hazards. So you should be in reasonable shape without any mobility issues to consider taking this hike. This hike is my favorite one to do in all of Puerto Vallarta. It's a coastal hike where you'll walk along pristine beaches and along rocky coasts past beautiful resorts and beach clubs. In addition to the crystal clear green waters, you can see lots of wildflowers as well as wild animals. As you walk along, you'll notice that the trail is constantly changing and therefore is always visually stimulating. A truly great experience, and I highly recommend it. So let me now show you how to get from Puerto Vallarta to Boca de Tomatlan, and then from there do the hike all the way to Las Animas. The first step is to catch the bus, and you can do that at the corner of Constitution and Paseo Badillo. There's a large OXXO on this corner, but there's always buses parked here all in a line ready to go. The buses leave approximately every 10 minutes in the morning, and they go in a circular route, with Puerto Vallarta being the first stop and Boca de Tomatlan being the last stop. Now, it takes anywhere from 25 to about 45 minutes to get to Boca, and the reason for the time difference is the amount of passengers. In the morning, you have a lot of the citizens heading out to their jobs at the resorts or beach clubs, so when the buses are packed, there's lots of different stops, and with all the traffic, it can be very slow. Early in the season, like it is now, there's limited passengers, therefore there's less resort staff going out, and our trip today took us about 25 minutes. But I've been on it where it's taken up to 45 minutes, and it's been extremely crowded, and there's quite a big long lineup at the buses here. If you want to take the bus back from Boca de Tomatlan to Puerto Vallarta, they should be coming in about 10-minute intervals. It may be a little bit longer. I think the longest I've ever waited was about 15 or 20 minutes. The times are a little more irregular at this stage because it all depends on how many stops and the traffic at that time of day. Now, my understanding is the last bus comes back somewhere around 11 o'clock, but you can check with the bus driver or the locals when you're in Boca if that's of interest to you. No, there are other options to come back. You can always hit up with a water taxi. Most only go back to Boca if you're at Las Animas or Camixto, but we have convinced a few water taxis to take us all the way back to the Las Mortos pier. That's hard to do because you really need quite a few people on the boat to make it worthwhile for them. Now, the good news is the cost to go out to Boca de Tomatlan from Puerto Vallarta is only 10 pesos. And then if you wanted to take a boat out to Las Animas or Camixto, the cost is approximately 100 pesos. And that's quite favorable compared to doing this by boat from the pier, Las Mortos Pier in Puerto Vallarta. From the pier in Puerto Vallarta, you can expect to pay 250 pesos each way, or 500 pesos for the day. But if you take the bus, you're talking 20 pesos for that section, and then 200 pesos for a ride out to Las Animas and a ride back to Boca from there. Now, it's not only about cost savings, which is nice, but I really enjoy taking the bus. I just find it's just fun and interesting to manage things on your own. You get to see a little bit of the countryside, and it actually is a beautiful ride out there. You're riding right along the coast, so you get to see the coastline and some of the interesting sites such as Los Arcos, which is a National Historic Marine area. You pass through a couple of different towns like Mismoloya as well. And then obviously you get to walk through Boca at the very end, which is a perfect little former fishing village, and it's good to see. You can also get here by taxi or Uber, and the price for a taxi or Uber is going to cost you somewhere between 200 and 300 pesos. So if I was going to pay a little bit more, I would probably select on using a water taxi, because you're not really saving any money by taking a taxi or Uber out to this location. Now, if you're one to get seasick, then taking the bus or Uber out to Boca de Tomatlan and then hiking is probably your best option. So once you reach Boca de Tomatlan, the bus driver will pull off the highway and you'll descend a small little road and then basically go back up a small hill, as the bus needs to turn around at this point so it can head back to Puerto Vallarta. So this is the parking spot where the bus will stop and let all the passengers out, and this is where you will also pick up the bus when you want to return back to Puerto Vallarta. So now you get off the bus and you just head on down to the bottom of the hill and you keep on going until you reach the inner harbor with all the boats. You can't miss it. It's only about a 5-minute walk. Now, here are a few recommendations if you plan to take this hike from Boca de Tomatlan to Las Animas. One, I would walk in your bathing suit or shorts, because there's a great place to swim along the way or at Las Animas. I like to carry a backpack. You can bring your bathing suit in there, because there's places you can change in Las Animas. Or I like to wear running shoes rather than sandals, because the terrain is uneven and I just feel a lot more secure that way. Although I do know people who walk it in sandals, but I wouldn't recommend that. It can be hot and may take you a little bit of time to get to Las Animas from Boca. The quickest I've ever done it is 1 hour and 20 minutes, but that was almost running. And typically I take about 2.5 hours, 3 at the most. And that all depends on the people I'm with. This is such a beautiful hike. I don't recommend that you rush it. Take it all in and enjoy yourself. And as I said, there's lots of places to stop and swim or have a drink. So why rush it? You're in a beautiful setting, and hopefully you're on vacation or retired and enjoying a day away. Perfect time to just sit back or take it easy and not rush this great experience. Though, because of the time, I recommend that you bring some water with you. You can stop at different locations to pick up water or a beverage, but I like to carry bottled water with me, or even a snack if that's good. Now, there's lots of stores in Boca de Tomatlan, a pharmacy, for example, and you can pick up sandwiches and so forth like that, or lots of different drinks. And you can also do that in Puerto Vallarta, right at the bus station or the stop where you pick up the bus. There's people selling sandwiches and drinks and even tamales, which you can pack away for a lunch. If you wanted to catch a water taxi from Boca out to Las Animas, Camixto, or Yalapa, just hang a right at this point and go right to the pier. You'll find people willing to take you out there. The cost presently to go to those locations, or at least Las Animas, is about 100 pesos. That would be about $7 Canadian or $5 US. But if you want to do the hike, just continue straight on forward right to the water's edge. And at the water's edge in this location, you're going to find an inner harbor where a lot of the small fishing boats and water taxis are parked. And immediately to your right will be a small channel which takes the boats out into the Bay of Banderas. And at this point, you're on the extreme southern end or coastline of the Bay of Banderas, which happens to be the largest natural bay on the western side of Mexico. So here we are at the inner harbor of Boca de Tomatlan, and you can see all the small fishing boats as well as water taxis. As you can see, there's a large group of tourists here. They're all probably grabbing water taxis, or there may be a larger excursion boat coming into Boca to pick them up. Now at this point, rather than going to the pier, you could have come straight here, because in this location there's often water taxi operators soliciting for passengers. So just make sure you get a price and they'll walk you over to the pier, or sometimes they even launch right off the beach and they'll take you to your destination of choice, which is typically from this area. You can go to Calamitos. It's a small beach just up the coast, about 2 kilometers, or you can go to Las Animas, or you can head on over to Camixto, the next town, and a lot of people also go to the town of Yalapa. So Boca used to be a small fishing village, and there's a lot of people still doing that, but most of the boats now are used for water taxi, but it's not unusual to see the fishermen coming in or somebody cleaning fish in the inner harbor here. Now, before you leave, there is a public washroom. It costs 10 pesos to use, so if you're in the need, use it, because there's really no washrooms or places that you can stop for about the first 2 kilometers. Then after that, every half kilometer or so, there are beach clubs and bars, but they may or may not allow you to use their facility unless you're actually buying drinks or lunch there. Now, I must say that Boca de Tomatlan is a great destination to spend a day as well. There's lots of new restaurants here right on the beach, and the little area where these boats come up is actually a sandbar, and it's a great place to swim. But today we're not going to do that. We are going to take the hike all the way to Las Animas, and to start that hike, we're now going to proceed up the river here, and we're going to find a suspension bridge which will allow us to cross it. There used to be 2 suspension bridges across the river. Unfortunately, one was lost during the hurricane season, when the water in the mountains, or the rain in the mountains, I should say, was pretty high, created a tremendous surge of water, and it took out one. However, there's always, when the water gets a little lower than what it is now, the citizens here actually drop sandbags and boards so you can walk across. My preference is always to take the far suspension bridge. It's always going to be there, and you don't need to worry about finding the planks there, because sometimes with all the cars on the side of the road here, you can't see the entrance to the river. Mid-November through the middle of April is my favorite time to take this hike, and the reason for that is that the humidity has generally fallen by that time, meaning it's not very humid, it's actually very comfortable. The temperature from November through to the end of April in Puerto Vallarta generally ranges from about 25 to 31 during the day, and then at night it'll go from about 12 to 21 over that 6-month period, and there's only a 3% chance of rain over the entire time. So almost every day is a good day to take a hike here during that time period. On top of that, because you're walking on the south coast and you're walking east to west, you'll find yourself in the jungle, basically in shade most of the hike. Therefore, you're not going to get overheated by the sun itself, especially in the early November when the foliage is actually quite thick and green. By the end of April, you still have a lot of leaves on the tree, but about, I would say, a third of them have fallen off, and which is also good in some ways, because it really opens up the vistas. You can see a lot more of the ocean as you walk along the cliff sides or rocky coastline. So as we approach the suspension bridge, we were looking in the trees, and in the palms we saw a lot of plantains, so I guess they're getting ripe and almost ready to harvest. This is the suspension bridge right here that will take you across the river. So this is quite easy to find. Leaving the inner harbor, you just walk down the road or just walk along the river. It's only probably about 500 meters at the most, 1,500 feet. You get to it and you cross it, and then you'll be on the other side on the south coast, and you'll be mostly in shade for the rest of the hike. The bridge is quite safe. It's really stable. You can bounce around on it a little bit, but there's no fear of falling off. They've got this wire mesh and cables along both sides, so it's impossible to fall off. One of the things I really like about the bridge is it gives you an opportunity to look both up and down the river, so you can see all the boats in the distance, which we just passed. And if you look down at the deepest section of the river, you can often see fish, actually quite a large number of fish often, and there's a lot of birds such as pelicans or cormorants that are actually trying to grab those as well, so something to take a look at. Now, the river is all fresh water, and I believe a lot of the citizens use it for their water drinking needs. It's very clear and I believe very clean. So we essentially left the major portion of the village of Boca de Tomatlan, and I must admit in the last 8 years it has expanded tremendously. It's getting a lot more modern with pharmacies and so forth, and a few more restaurants, actually a lot more beach clubs as well. So it's a perfect day destination if you just want to get out of Puerto Vallarta. But that's mostly on the north side of the river. On the south side, you're going to find a few little tiendas, and the reason for that is there's no road across the river to support this side. Moving goods from one side to the other becomes a bit of a challenge. I think at one time when the river is quite low, they might have a little bit of a driving route across it, but the water never stops, so they need to be careful. So on this side of the river, you're going to find a lot of homes, and some of them are really not very well developed. So a lot of the local citizens are living here. But you're also going to see a lot of really large, I don't want to call them resorts, but people have moved into the area, bought some homes, and done some tremendous renovations, and established a good foothold in this particular area. So now that we've crossed the river, we're on the south side of the river, and we'll be on the south side of the bay in the shade all the way to Las Animas. Now, one of the reasons I really enjoy taking this hike, and as I said earlier, is probably my favorite hike in the bay, is that the trail conditions change tremendously from one section to another, basically every kilometer. The first part of this hike, the first, I'd say, 1 kilometer, is basically a walk through the town of Boca and along the river here. And then you'll pass through some interesting homes and also some fairly large mansions that people have established in the area. The second kilometer that you're going to go through, I refer to as the jungle section, is because you move a little bit inboard or inland from the coast, and you're walking through a forest or jungle. Lots of large palm fronds and large trees as you navigate through that section. And then you descend a fairly large hill into the probably the nicest beach, I think, on the whole hike in terms of how beautiful and picturesque it is, and that is Calamitos. And you'll be there within 2 to maybe 2.4 kilometers, and that represents about half the distance to the hike. And I would say the most difficult section of the hike is after you leave the city, so after the first kilometer to about 2.2 kilometers, which is the descent down into the Calamitos beach. The hike is a total of 4.8 kilometers from the top of the hill in Boca de Tomatlan to Las Animas, and that's approximately 3 miles. It's difficult only in that it's a bit of a steep hike and a very steep descent, and the footing of the trail is not the most even, and there's lots of roots on the trail. Anybody can do it, but you just got to take it slow and just be careful so you don't have a fall. So once you leave the beach of Calamitos, I call that section of the hike the rocky coastline, because essentially you are walking right along a trail right beside the ocean. You'll be fairly high up at first, and then you'll descend right down to the beaches. You'll walk across a lot of beaches where they go from very sandy to a very rocky coastline. The final section of the hike I refer to as the beaches, beach clubs, and resorts, because that's exactly what you're going to see. You'll be walking along some picturesque beaches. Some of them are fairly large, but they're also filled with resorts and beach clubs, which you navigate either in front or behind, and that'll take you to the final little stretch, which is the town of Las Animas and the restaurants and beaches there. So once you get up, let's say 3 kilometers into the hike of the 4.8, there's going to be a lot of beach clubs, a lot of resorts, and at many of those you can stop to get a drink or have lunch. But I always like to keep on going all the way to Las Animas, because I find anytime you stop, you have a tendency to just remain there for the day, which is not a bad option. It's up to you. I really enjoy the restaurants in Las Animas, and I like the distance of the hike and the changing views, which I'll be showing you as we go along. Now, if you're on the hike and you get a little bit tired or you think it's a little bit tough for you, that's really not a lot of problem, because at most of the sandy beaches, you can wave down a water taxi. They'll come pick you up and take you to Las Animas or take you back to Boca, whatever your preference is. If you have multiple people in your party and some of them do not want to do the hike, but they do want to meet you or go to Las Animas, then obviously that's not a problem. Some of you can take the hike, and the rest of you can just grab a water taxi right from Boca, and then you can meet up at Las Animas or Quimixto or even Yalapa if you're willing to walk that far. But that is quite the distance if you want to get to Yalapa. I think it's on the order of about 11 or 12 kilometers, whereas Quimixto is about 7.5, and it's only 4.8 if you're going to Las Animas. So on your left here is a small tienda. I believe that is the last tienda you're going to find within the city, which will be leaving shortly. And the city of Boca basically ends at the mouth of the harbor here, because then you're in the bay. There's still a bar, I believe, right at the exit of the bay here, or the harbor, I should say, where you might be able to grab something. It's a little bit early in the season, and we're a little bit early in the day, so it wasn't open as we passed by. What I really like about this section of the walk or hike is the inner harbor here. It's just spectacular in terms of seeing all the boats. A lot of times you get to see what the fishermen are doing. It's picture perfect, I guess, as you can tell. And there's generally a lot of hustle and bustle. Now it's about 8 o'clock in the morning here, or 8:30, and you'll find it's a little bit calm and relaxed, but generally around 9 to 10 o'clock you're going to find a lot of tourists in the area, basically grabbing water taxis to go out to the different beaches along the south coast. As I mentioned earlier, normally between November and April, there's only a 3% chance of rain in this particular area. So I was a little surprised to see how high the water is here. You may think it is low, but it is higher than normal. There's actually a wide open area to get in and out of this inner harbor. Normally it's just a small channel, and there's a large sandbar in the front here where they set up a whole bunch of tables where you can have lounge chairs and so forth, and basically grab your food and bring it to your area. So it's a great place to swim. But at this time of year, and it's December the 1st, I believe, when we took this video, there was not much of a sandbar, but that should basically be rectified probably in the next couple of weeks. So we are almost, I guess, once we get to the end of the sandbar, I say we're out of the city section and definitely out of the river section, and you'll be moving from freshwater to saltwater. And on the left-hand side here is the last bar in the city. It's also a restaurant. They've been expanding recently. It's a little early in the day, so they're not opened. But again, if you want to just spend the day in Boca de Tomatlan along the sandbar here in the inner harbor, you're going to find a lot of beachside clubs where you can sit down and grab a meal. But you can also get it at this particular location here if you want to just wade across the water and hang out on the sandbar, which is probably one of your best options, because if you want to swim in the inner harbor, there's a lot of boats that often park there, and along the sandbar there isn't, so it's a nice wide open spot. Paradise, it says up here. Sounds like they're really expanding the business. Well, last year this was such a nice wide beach, so they had so many people on it. I would imagine they're going to take advantage of that if it happens again. Yeah. A lot of people can say they've got the new dock all built too, right? A lot of people are there. So if you're looking to catch a water taxi, that's where they drop from, or pick you up from and drop you off. Sometimes they'll come right onto the beach though. And when they were building this dock, that's what they had to do. So we've now left the inner harbor, and on our right is the Bay of Banderas and saltwater. Our next destination or mile mark would be what they refer to as the bridge. It's about 750 meters, which would be about 2,100 yards from the top of the hill. So we haven't really come that far. I wanted to show you this entire section of the hike in detail, because if there was any confusion about finding the trail, it's probably here. But the rest of the hike is really well marked. Matter of fact, what we discovered on this particular hike is that they've really expanded the signage. They've put these white and green marks along the trail every couple of hundred meters, either on the trees or some structures, to identify that you're on the correct path. And at every sort of milestone location, they also put a mile marker with signs and maps as well, and we'll be seeing some of those here fairly shortly. But I will say that's a tremendous improvement to what they did or what they had in previous years. This is 2024, and people are definitely working on the trail, trying to make it an improvement. So we're probably about 500 meters along the trail right now, and we'll start to see some fairly large homes. Again, some smaller ones that haven't been renovated or updated, but there'll be some fairly large homes. And in this section, a lot of people have put in their own docks. Again, remember, there's no roads on this side, so you either have to walk your groceries or supplies across, or you need to put them on a boat to bring them across to your home. On this rock to our left, you can see the white and green markers identifying that we are on the correct trail. Now, having said that, it is almost impossible to get lost on this particular trail. The reason I say that is there's really no sideline pass. It's pretty much a straight shot right along the coastline, so as long as you're following the coast, you will make it to Los Animas. Why would you rush this? It's just so nice.
Soak it up.
And we got some nice shade, so it's not too hot. I wish they would repost the name of these trees. I've got the one sign there, but it's unfortunately it's showing its age. Yeah, this is a huge tree. Beautiful big roots. And these are all water lines here. It looks like maybe this place was bought. It was up for sale for, it seemed like 2 years.
It's like a beautiful property.
Yeah, I looked at it, not in the inside, but just on the internet. And they had a couple of different buildings, right?
Yeah.
They own both, and they were selling it all together. Well, that's nice.
Some kind of lily?
I'm not sure. Well, you're right. So far, they've cleaned up a lot of the brush.
A little bit of gravel down. Filled in some of the really low spots.
They've cleaned up this place a little bit. That could be a beautiful property once it gets renovated. But the structural supports keep that wall up. Yeah, somebody put a lot of effort into it. More plantains on that palm. Or tree, I guess. That one's for sale. They had done a lot of renovation work on that last year. I think a lot of these weeds will be down in a month. Like the trail probably hasn't been walked that much because we're still early in the season. Yeah. This being December the 1st. That looks like a nice place. Freshly painted as well. Hola. And here we got our first little bridge. Looks like they made it a little more solid, but they didn't put the handrails on or put them back on. They were there last year. Open spot here.
Taking off.
I'll get in front of you there. Yeah. Looks like they're doing some more construction here. Filling out their patio now. So these, in my opinion, is probably the nicest stretch in terms of houses that somebody's built for themselves. It's a real beautiful one up here. Unfortunately, the sun is making it difficult to photograph. But talk about spectacular. Got themselves a great place to put their boat. Yes. Another turtle sculpture. You got them. So here's the map, starting at Boca de Tomatlan, and we're heading all the way past all these beaches to Las Animas. But the first beach that everybody really likes is Calamitos. It's very popular with the locals, and it's been upgraded in the last bit in terms of they've got a bar and restaurant, and there's a very popular restaurant that you can get to in the evening for dinner called the Ocean Grill, and it's only 2 kilometers. Got some new signage. So there's a viewpoint, Mirador. They've got 3.4 kilometers from here to Las Animas, and Calamitos is only a kilometer, so we traveled 1 kilometer already. And Boca de Tomatlan is 1.4, so according to this, it's really 2.4. So fantastic. And here we are at the lookout. Hey Cal, we're just gonna go up the lookout. We're gonna check out the lookout. Just gotta watch your steps up here, because it's not in the best of shape. So this part of the trail really does need some work. So from the lookout, you can see this little bay here, which forms the entrance or mouth of the bay at Boca de Tomatlan. And to my left would be the Bay of Banderas. It's all salt water at this point, and it's 1 kilometer from the town of Boca de Tomatlan. So we need to go a further kilometer, which will take us to Animas Beach. A great stopping point to look around. Obviously, it's called a mirador or sightseeing platform. The only problem I find is it's not being very well maintained, especially the very east section, so you need to be very careful if you're walking along here. Also, these guardrails here are not very stable, so I wouldn't lean on them or hold on to them because they're not well attached. I wonder what these are. This used to be such a smooth path here, and then I think they've had a little bit of a landslide and we lost it. Watch your head here. So this is the hardest section of the trail, and the only reason I call it hard is that we're going to be going up a fairly steep incline. I believe it's about 250 meters to the top. The good news is it's only a short amount of time to reach the top, so it's not all that strenuous for that long period of time. So we just got to go up and down a few little ravines here. It's a little unstable, the footing, but not difficult. And then we're going to start our long climb up to the top of the mountain, and we'll be going into what I refer to as the jungle section of the trail here shortly. And once we're through the jungle section, you'll know it because we'll be doing a very steep descent, and that will take us to Animas Beach. So what I call it, the hard section of the trail, or the most difficult, is only about a kilometer long, which is about 0.65 miles. Looks like they're clearing the land up here. Probably going to build something. That's probably what caused the water to run there and wash out part of that trail section. This guy's got a sweet setup. He's got his own little funicular here to take all of his supplies from the boat up to his place.
That's one big house.
Ven, te cargo. Ven, aquí. Hey, no te va a pasar nada. Ya, a ver. Tranquila, tranquila. Ya pasamos.
These plants could be trimmed down a little bit. And here we go, the hardest part of the trail.
Fun. You'll edit through that video.
Oh yeah, it'll be cut right down. But this is the most, I don't want to say complicated, but people can get lost following the trail at first. Once you're on this section, obviously, it's self-evident. Here we go. So this is the steepest section of the trail. We're going to climb to basically the highest point, which is about 75 meters or 250 feet above the ocean. It's a windy, turny little section. There's some obviously handrails on the right, but makes it a little more difficult is because some of the steps have been eroded away. So at one section, it's a little bit difficult where you have to scramble over a few rocks, but that's only a very short section, and then you'll reach the top in very short order.
¿Faltan? Estamos a 700 metros. Ay.
Only 3.1 more kilometers to go to Las Animas. So at this point, you've climbed the highest hill, again about 75 meters or about 250 feet above sea level, and you've entered what I refer to as the jungle section of the trail. There's lots of up and downs here, but they're nowhere near as high as or as steep as the last section. It's actually quite tranquil. It's actually a lot cooler as well because you're under the shade or canopy of the trees. Again, there's a lot of trail markers, these green and white bands that you see on the side of the building here directing you, and there's really not a lot of turnoff, so there's no real way to get lost if you're doing this hike. One of the reasons, again, I like this hike is the changing conditions. You just went through a city and along a river, and you passed some very large mansions. And in this section here, you're basically immersed in the jungle with a large canopy, lots of big trees, lots of big palm fronds, and an opportunity to see a variety of different wild animals. I've seen like a raccoon type of animal on the trail. They call these things coates. I've never seen those before, so I've seen them out in the wild here. You also see lots of birds and butterflies, and some of the birds are little parrots, green parrots, and then macaws are constantly flying over, or you'll see them in the trees. Now, I will admit that in this area, along this trail, Mexico does have some snakes and some scorpions. I believe their boa constrictors are probably one of the most common snakes and scorpions, but I've never ever in the 8 years that I've been hiking this trail have come across one of those. But the only reason I say it is that if you're using your hands as you're walking along, just make sure you take a look before you grab a rock or some other area. There might be something sitting there, but as I said, in 8 years I have never seen a scorpion or a snake along this trail. So we've gone approximately 1.8 kilometers from the top of the hill in Boca de Tomatlan, and that took us through the city section and past some condos and people's homes, and we are now started what I call the jungle section of this walk. So we're in the shade and right next to the ocean. Some signage. A bench to relax, and more of the trail. The footing's actually quite good, but I still like to do some of the 3-point plants to make sure you don't trip or slip, I should say. It looks wet, but it's actually got a lot of grip, so I think it's a lot of clay, not sand. Oh yeah. In this particular section of the trail, you can see on my left a large termite nest. You'll see those pretty regularly, actually. I find them fascinating. I never saw those until I got to Puerto Vallarta before. I don't believe that one's alive or active, by the way. And then in this section, you'll also see a lot of palm fronds. And what amazes me is just the size of them. Not only the size of the branches, but how high they are. I wasn't expecting them to be that big. I really enjoy this section of the jungle portion of our hike today. It's only about a kilometer long, and it's just so different than the rest of the trail. It just makes the whole hike that much more interesting. And there's probably the most shade that you're going to get on the whole hike is here, although I will say the entire hike, because you're on the south coast, is quite shady. Now in a moment here, you'll see a sign that says Calamitos, which is basically a signal that you're going to be going down the large ravine or steep area. And I think this section is actually the most difficult section of the entire trail. The good news is for the first section of it, somebody's been working the trail and they've cut some steps into the clay here. So that was a nice surprise, but unfortunately they didn't get more than about a quarter way down where it became very steep and not overly difficult, but the footing is uneven, but there's a lot of roots that you need to navigate around and make sure you don't trip over. So Colomitos is probably the most picturesque beach in all of Puerto Vallarta. In the past, if there were brochures about Puerto Vallarta and the surrounding beaches, they generally would show this one. It's quite small. It used to be fairly remote. It was very popular with the locals, especially on the weekend when they had no work. They would come down here, and I think it's going to get even more popular for a variety of reasons. But the first one is they built a little beach club and bar here, and that opened up last year. It's probably not open today because we are quite early in the season. But the other reason why this beach is popular is, one, it's the closest beach outside of Boca de Tomatlan, and there's also a great restaurant here called the Ocean Grill, very popular with the tourists. Generally people who come here though will take a water taxi from Boca de Tomatlan and then get dropped off on the beach and make their way up to the restaurant, and I'll show you where that is in a moment. Looks like they put in a few more wood pieces, and blocks. The occasional tire. Well, they even put up some caution tape. Wonder why. Looks like they had a little bit of a landslide here. Knocked part of the trail down.
How's the new phone with the battery? And
It's fantastic. So actually, when my phone died last year, I was going to look at getting a new phone anyways, because I was getting like half a day.
what do you do with your old one?
I just, it died, remember? So I tried to trade it in. They wouldn't take it because it was not salvageable.
Oh, really?
No, I think I got some money, even though it was a dead phone for it.
Were you able to get everything you had on it off?
Nope, it completely died, dead. It was useless. Yeah, they've opened up the trail a little bit differently here. Made it a little more turns, I guess, to make it a little safer, less of a steep descent. And the final descent. Look how green the water is.
It's green and then it's blue.
I don't know, I can't see right now. I see just bright green, just like you find in the Mediterranean or on the east side of Mexico. I actually don't find this part difficult, even though it's a little steeper, because they got a lot of places you can grab onto.
Yeah.
But just got to take your time. I'm sure this camera angle is making it look a lot steeper than what it really is. The good news is, for those people who don't want to take the trail, you can definitely take a water taxi here. And they'll drop you off right at the beach. And then you can hike to Las Animas from here if you so choose, and then take a water taxi back from there, because you have now completed the hardest part of this whole hike, the biggest descent and the biggest climb. And you're about halfway to Las Animas. So we got some new signage. Well, it gives you all the elevations. So this is the beautiful beach of Calamitos. And every time you see a brochure with a small beach picture, it's generally this one here. They like to use it as advertisement. It's beautiful sand. The waters are always green. The difference between here and Puerto Vallarta, it's more of a rocky sand. In Puerto Vallarta, it's silty sand, so any sort of waves kick up it, make it look a little bit dirty when it's really not, really quite clean. But here is beautiful, bright green waters, and today it's especially clear. You can look right down into it. A lot of times you can see fish, but today we don't. You got one pelican sitting on a rock here. He's fishing for something to go by. Walkway to the Ocean Grill restaurant. Just had a water taxi drop some people off. And now we have a boardwalk to Calamitos Beach. This pelican just snagged himself a fish. Just swallowing it now. I can try to grab another one. Oh yeah, you can see these little fish darting about. And he got one. He's having a feast, this guy. Yeah. So he's got a couple since he's sitting here. Did you get him? I think he got another one. That's amazing. Yeah, he got another one. I get one on film here. Yep. No, you got him.
He's actually a lot better fisher than the other.
That is for sure. I didn't even see that fish. He just picked it right up. I think he's got to take a break. He's already caught a lot of fish. Well, there they are around him again. There, we got another one. Wow, this guy's good. Some trail markers again. Beautiful beach. I've been told I need to slow down on my panning of my camera.
Everybody's afraid of
Hey, all good advice is appreciated. Those strips are a little worn out. You need to be careful. Same with these ones. I got the stream run. So there's a stream that runs from the mountains out to the bay here. During most of the winter season, there's very little water that comes down here. Actually, by the end of February, you don't see any water. So it's a perfectly beautiful sand beach. Today, a little more water than normal, so we're just going to jump across it, and then we'll be on the beach and we'll have a good look around. So this group of tourists, what they've done is rented this particular boat. They're probably doing a fishing, swimming sort of exploration tour. So the captain dropped them off the beach, or dropped them on the beach. They had a swim, and now they're loading back on. I see they've got fishing poles and so forth, so they'll probably do cruise along the coast, do a little bit of fishing, and I wouldn't be surprised if they make their way to Las Animas, where they'll stop for lunch and possibly enjoy another swim there or relax along the beach before heading back to Puerto Vallarta. That is one excursion that's very popular, and what's so nice is that you can grab some of these little pangas and basically book them for the day, and they'll take you wherever you want to go. And if you have a large group of people, let's say 10 to 14 people, you can grab a larger charter boat and they'll do roughly the same thing, but you'll have a lot more room. You'll have a bathroom on board as well. Oftentimes the captain will serve you some ceviche from the fish you catch as well. We do that type of trip at least once a year, and it's highly enjoyable. And there's a lot of larger boat charter tours that you can find throughout the bay. Most of them have their boats docked right in Marina Vallarta. We are now going up out of this little bay, Animas Beach, and we're basically going to go up a short section here, but it is the second hardest or highest and steepest section on the whole hike. But at this point, it is so much easier all the way to Las Animas compared to the first 2 to 2.2 kilometers that it took us to get to this section of the trail, and you only have another about 2.4 kilometers to go until you reach Las Animas. And as I said, it is much easier from this point on. A rock slide here a couple of years ago, so the steps are a little harder to get by in this section.
So the restaurants in Los Animas, although are about 2.25 kilometers away, are advertising happy hour from 11 to 2 p.m. 2 for 1 classic margaritas. And this is Las Conas, and they're one of my favorite places to go. And on the left is some octopus, and that's what I'm having this afternoon for lunch. Well, they put some ropes up anyways.
Has your brother been down this year?
He's coming today or tomorrow. I think tomorrow. His partner, Robert, I think they've got some sort of charity breakfast thing going on. They're doing that, and then I think they're heading to Toronto. I guess I would call this section of the trail after Calamitos the coastal trail. You're right along the edge of the water in the bay, so great views. It's generally quite a good path. You got the overhanging trees to your left from the jungle, but it's not as thick and you're not in the center of it like the last section. It's just gorgeous. No, not too many waves right now. I don't know if it's high tide. Normally I like to do this on low tide because there's that one section you might have to walk across the beach, or you can at low tide. At high tide you have to go on the rocks. And bridges are a little bit worse for wear. So we're just past Calamitos Beach. There's just a really nice lookout rock. There's Calamitos right there. Ocean Grill restaurant right beside it. Beautiful green water here, and where it gets deeper it looks really dark blue. We have a new statue of the Virgin Mary. I suspect that is to bless all the fishermen and water taxi ferrymen. We've just come down a hill to another small beach, and you have a choice. When it's low tide, you go down to the beach and walk around these rocks. but there's another path. If there's high tide and the water's flooding the beach, you can go up above. Today, it looks like it's sort of mid to low, so I'm going to go walk along the beach.
This particular beach is called Madagascar, and a lot of people do come here if you want a little more peace and quiet, rather than being on Calamitos, which is extremely popular. You do get the occasional boat that'll dock here or bring people in, but it's, for the most part, a little more remote and a lot more quiet than Calamitos, and definitely a lot more quiet and peaceful than Las Animas.
But generally, they take the upper trail, which is along the rocks up there. And not that many people walk along the sand. This ain't hard to take. Like, I don't know how we can get any better. This is definitely my favorite trail and favorite thing to do. So as I said, if it is high tide, the beach might be partially flooded out, but you can take this elevated trail right here. There's some steps just off the beach. There used to be some wooden walkways here, but it's filled up with sand now, and the trail begins there on these rock walkways. So there was a little bit of a bridge here a couple of years ago, but it's washed out and not really needed anymore because the sand is filled in the area. So we're just leaving the Madagascar beach, and I found something new. Normally we proceed a little higher into the coastline here, but somebody has made a new trail here, which is great because I don't really want to go back into the sort of trees and semi-coastline. I like walking right along the coast, and it looks like somebody this winter or late last summer decided to build a new trail. They've done a great job of it. It's all cemented in. You gotta like that. New for 2024. Takes out one small climb and keeps you near the water. Doesn't get much better than that.
Unfortunately, the new trail, at least new trail for us, ended at this point, so we ended up scrambling back up this short incline back onto the normal trail we always take.
Hasn't been developed. We're going to go back up to the main path, which is just here. And now we're coming into La Troza Beach, where the La Troza Resort is. The sign marking us out. We are at La Troza. Now, there should be a path here. I would say probably 1.5 kilometers.
At this point, we are approximately 3 kilometers from Boca de Tomatlan. Our total hike will be 4.8, so we're 2/3 of the way done, and the trail is getting simpler and easier to navigate as we go along. In this particular stretch, we've got some nice cobblestone walkways, but from now on, it's basically some small walkways, definitely some beaches, and lots of resorts like La Troza and beach clubs, which many of which you can stop in and get lunch and drinks if you so choose to.
Might be the next beach, we'll check. And that's La Troza Resort there. So it's sort of mid to low tide, I guess, so we can walk along the beach. But if it is ever high tide, you can take the steps up and around right there. Crabs sunning themselves on the rocks. Big one. Hola, amigo.
Resort's all about.
No, I never went there. I saw a commercial once where they were used, I think it was Pepsi or something like that. They used them as a backdrop in that beach there.
Okay.
I only saw it the one time though. I said, I know that place. Look at all the crabs though.
How do the people get here?
Oh, I imagine they get boated here, yeah. Beautiful spot though. Like, I think it'd be a perfect place for a honeymoon. You know, you got the beach, you got the city close by, and you got some privacy. Now we're going to go down a section of the coast that I call the Rocky Coastline. And you'll see why in a moment. A whole bunch of these plantains should be in here. They might have been already picked off. I don't see any plantains. I think for me, this is the most scenic section of the whole, yeah. So I like this rocky coastline. This rock is perched.
See how it's balanced.
Taxis going by, people taking the easy way to Los Animas.
How much further down the coast is that Rhythm of the Night spot?
Oh, it's past Camixto, I believe. Well, I think it's just down, not very far from Camixto. Well, let's get back on the trail. And this is that rock I call the iguana rock. There's a lot of times there's an iguana coming out of the cracks, or those black things. Not exactly, I guess they're not technically an iguana. They're something else. I'm not sure what they call them. One of the locals told me the name, but it didn't resonate or stay with me. A lot of times, yeah, he's still right there, right now. To get the name, but he's just sitting there catching some sun. Doesn't seem to mind us. That is so cool. Catching some rays. Another resort now. And on this one, you can't go along the beach. You actually need to go around it and through it. And you can see the trail markers are still here, so you know it's allowed. And these are the new trail markers, these green and white flags that people have been painting on the rocks. Again, a lot of these places you can stop in and grab lunch or a drink. You're more than welcome. The kitchen. Hola, amigos.
Hello, hello.
And still lots of signs telling you where to go. Another one for Los Animas.
Everybody's telling me where to go.
Yeah, everybody tells me where to go. I never get lost. So that goes to the resort. This is the trail that we want. Through the doors.
Is there a movie behind the green door?
I don't know. The green door sounds familiar. And now we're coming up to a beach club, probably the fanciest beach club I know. Last year I didn't really see it open too much for lunch, but it definitely was open for dinner. Very posh. And we're also very close to Las Animas. Now they don't really like you going through there anymore, but we're going to do it anyways, or try. The sign directed you to the beach and around them, but in the past, this was always the way to get through. What a beautiful, yeah, roasting tomatoes. Lots of seating. It's quite the place. Looks like the staff is having a meeting. Hola. Sí, señor. The men's bathroom. They got the Mexican flag back on the pole out here. It was knocked down last year, but it looks like it's not doing very well. Yeah, but it looks like it's partially down, so it's not flying. Well, there's no wind today, so it can't fly. So this is Playa Cabello. So this is Playa Cabello. At one point, 3 years ago, there was really no beach clubs here. Just on either end, there was a resort. And it was one of the nicest beaches on the trail, but it's getting commercialized. Still very nice, though. Playa Cabello. And this resort cuts right across the ocean front. So we need to follow the Las Animas signs. We're only half a kilometer away, and we just got to go up the stairs and around it. Okay, we're passing through the last resort, and then we'll be into the little village of Las Animas, and then onto the beach. And we got some nice orchids here, right there to be exact. And so here we go. We've got some
Chacalacas, which are a wild bird that you'll find throughout this area.
wild chickens here. They're the ones that make all the noise. Another one there. They always travel in groups. So in addition to some roosters, we got some chacalacas here. Roosters are making a lot of sound, but if these guys decide to make a noise, they are even louder. These are chacalacas, and they're all over this part of Mexico. There they go. They're not overly afraid, are they? Well, that was cool. I've been hearing a few of them around our condo, but I hadn't seen any yet, which is unusual. What's even more unusual is we haven't seen our chickens and roosters yet. There's one over there though. But normally they're sitting right there. There's some chickens. And there's the rooster right there. It's a nice one. Doesn't want to turn around and look at me though. There's one over here though. Take a look at this one here. There they are. That's a rooster. Good. I got my rooster pick.
So that's the little village of Las Animas. We're now onto the beach in Las Animas, where they built a lot of restaurants and beach clubs. It's actually quite a large beach and is very popular with the tourists. And there's a lot of excursions run by companies such as Vallarta Adventures that will take you here. Obviously, that'll be pricey because they also include a lunch. I myself, as you can tell, prefer to walk here. So but that's your choice. If you only have a limited amount of time, taking an excursion is obviously a great option. Now, we always go to a restaurant here. There's lots to choose from. The one I prefer is called Las Conas, and it'll be the first restaurant with 2 stories on the left-hand side. You'll see it shortly. The main reason I go there is that they have a wood-fired grill, and I find that they have the best pulpa, otherwise known as octopus. They cook it in a serrandado sauce, which I really enjoy, so it's one of the reasons I always go to that restaurant. But I will say that all the restaurants here are quite good. The other reason that I really enjoy Las Conas is it's 2 levels, so I normally set up at the top level, which gives me great views up and down the beach. And the other reason I really enjoy it is after lunch, we generally go down to the beach. They have a lot of lounge chairs, which they allow you to use since you have had eaten lunch there or had some drinks. So it's a great place to check out and swim as well as eat. And that's what we do. We have lunch, and then later on we go down to the beach, have a good swim, and just relax and enjoy the area before grabbing a water taxi back to Boca de Tomatlan. So here's a little short video of the food that they offer. So it's traditional Mexican fare. In this case, my friend here bought some shrimp fajitas, and I myself bought the pulpo in a serrandado sauce. And I must say it was everything I expected, just truly fantastic. Very easy to eat. It was not rough or very chewy that you get in some other restaurants. This stuff just melted in your mouth, and that's hard to find in a lot of places. So just to finish up the video, here is the beach at Las Animas. It's nice white brownish sand. It's easy to get in and out, great for swimming. So if you get a chance, this is one of the most popular beaches in all of the Puerto Vallarta area. Highly recommend that you come here. And if you want to get back, I don't recommend taking the trail back. That would make for a very long day. You can talk to your waiter, and he can call a water taxi to pick you up, or you can just wave one down at the pier. And the cost for us to go back to Boca de Tomatlan from here was 100 pesos. I highly recommend you take the water taxi back to Boca de Tomatlan. You actually get to see all the coastline from the water side that you just walked along. The views are spectacular, and it's just a beautiful way to end the day. And here we are back at Boca de Tomatlan. We're just going to get off the dock, and we'll make our way back up to the highway, up the hill that is, and that's where we'll catch our bus to head back. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please like and subscribe. I will say again, this is probably my favorite day trip in all of Puerto Vallarta. The hike is spectacular. You get a boat ride. You see lots of flowers. You can see lots of different animals. If you don't want to go all the way to Las Animas, then you can just stay in Boca de Tomatlan. There's lots of places to eat here. It's a very picturesque little town, and there's good swimming along the sandbar as well. And easy to get to and very cost efficient. It's only cost you 10 pesos each way to make it here from Puerto Vallarta, and the trip here is only approximately anywhere from 25 to 45 minutes, generally less than 30 minutes, as long as there is not a lot of traffic or too many people on the bus. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please like and subscribe, because I do a lot of content on Puerto Vallarta.